So thank you and good morning and welcome to the third day of the conference. And I'm very pleased to be able to kick off today with the panel on energy, a crucial topic. We've heard a lot about it over the past couple of days, but we'll now be able to dive more into the topic of energy, oil, gas, electricity, and its importance to the Kurdistan region, to Iraq as a whole, and to the wider regional picture. And I'm pleased to have such an excellent and distinguished panel to be able to discuss this topic. And you've heard their introductions already, but just as a reminder, I have Dr. Luay al-Khateeb, the former Minister of Electricity and member of the Federal Energy Council, Dr. Izzat Sabir, Deputy Minister for Gas Affairs, Mr. Matthew Zais, HKN Energy's Vice President for Government Affairs and former US Assistant Secretary of Energy. And we were hoping to be joined by Dunya Chalabi from Total Energies. We're unfortunately having some trouble connecting to Dunya online, so please excuse us for that. The energy sector in Iraq and the Kurdistan region has been through a lot of change over the past couple of years and significant challenges, but also some progress. And there's been quite a lot of hope recently around some steps forward on the side of resuming oil exports from the Kurdistan region through Turkey, on the side of increasing Iraq's own natural gas production, and on the side of developing the energy sector more broadly in the fields of refining, of renewable energy and other areas. There are new challenges on the horizon, of course, new political developments in the region that also affect the oil and gas sector here. And I'd like to dive into some of those with my panel. And I'd like to begin with you, Dr. Luay. Could you give us your thoughts on the upcoming elections and the impact that will have or could have on the potential for energy cooperation between the federal authorities and the Kurdistan region?
Thank you very much, Robin, and good morning to everyone. I think the question is whether the future government will be much more realistic, or the political party, should I say, much more sincere to move forward into developing a constitutional institution as opposed to relying on a political deal. Usually, once they reach an agreement to it, they end up basically not committing to it, to them. We've heard about so many political deals that have been reached by the various political parties, let it be during the seasons of agreeing a federal budget or forming new governments. But once such formation or such agreement reached, then when it comes to commitment, there is no compliancy. And the only resolve to this is to focus in developing the federal laws and the relevant federal institutions according to the Constitution, so everyone commit to that as opposed to waiting to the annual situation of agreeing a federal government, a federal budget law, or every 4 years and forming a federal government. The hydrocarbon law, as well as the revenue sharing law, together with the relevant federal institutions to them, are much more needed today to develop these relationships and protect the federal system in Iraq. At the moment, as Kaknachervan rightly said in the first day, our constitution is federal in text, but when it comes to application, it's central. And one of the big issues is that Baghdad looks into federalism through the lens of centralism, while the governments in Kurdistan look into federalism through the lens of confederalism. And we have both parties not looking into the federal issue itself, which what the Constitution dictates. So what we need is to have a federal arrangement, federal laws, federal institutions complied with the federal constitution. Without these, it's going to be quite difficult to trust any political agreement to survive after the formation of this government. And I keep repeating this message again and again in every occasion because unfortunately the lack of trust is increasing by the year since 2005.
Thank you. And Dr. Izzat, thanks for joining us too. And please do speak in, answer in Arabic or English as you prefer. The gas industry in Iraq has made progress in recent years. There are still some major challenges. There's obviously issues with the delivery of Iranian gas. There are the issues with continuing the progress in flared gas capture and hopefully eliminating flaring entirely. Could you tell us a bit more about the plans in the gas sector and particularly where you see them going over the next few years in gas?
Thank you so much, Mr. Robin.
It's true, I'm a Deputy Minister for Oil, and Erbil, I want to speak in Kurdish. My presentation is ready. Our Ruda colleague knows. I'll try to answer in short answer for the Mr. Robin's question. The Sudanese government is called its cabinet, service cabinet, and it has given up a lot of priorities to oil and gas sector. At the beginning of ninth government, 47% of oil and gas of Iraq were flaring. But now every percent of the equals $1 billion, which we will lose it. If we invest it, we'll have $3 billion revenue. In the last 10 years, Iraqi government has decided $10 billion to invest in oil and gas sector. However, they'll get 30 billion revenue. There's been a lot of investment in oil and gas sector and working on those projects. In the future, we have plans for more projects in this sector. One of the panelists should have been Dunya Chalabi. Dunya Chalabi is the representative of Total Energy with Qatar Energy, with the Iraqi oil minister doing investment worth $25 billion in cleaning the energy and other sectors of it. Oil ministry planning is in 2030 we won't be any gas flaring. Unfortunately, Iraq is one of the countries who still is gas flaring, and everyone tells us, why is gas flaring in Iraq and you import gas from Iran? And that's true, but the oil ministry has not sat down and stand still. But in the last 3 years, those gas flaring has been reduced, and we have invested in our gas sector, and at the end of this year, 75% of the investment in gas flaring will be done, and we have done international agreement that Iraq will be until 2030 there won't be any gas flaring in Iraq. Iraq, owner of 137 billion cubic meter and worth a century. Iraq's ready, according to those sanctions, cannot or like pass to import gas from Iran. There's an agreement with Turkmenistan. It should have been through Iran, but has not been implemented so far. The agreement has been signed, but has not been implemented because we don't have any border with Turkmenistan. It's like a swap. They'll give it, the Turkmens can give it to Iran, and Iran gives it to Iraq. We have thought about alternative. We have tried very hard in the last few months. SRU with floating storage tank unit. We try through Iraqi, Qatar or Algeria to import gas to Iraq. Want to make sure we don't want to just stand still and just import gas, but locally. There's no any gas fields that had been not have international agreement with an international company, but the process of gas is very different to oil. It's more complicated. As you know, our Roda colleague tells me the slide's ready, so I'll try to tell the oil gas sector in Iraq and related to KRG. A few days ago, Iraqi Prime Minister, to agree to give percentage of gas to local use for KRG. It's very important. It's important in Iraq benefit from the natural resources from Kurdistan and Kurdistan vice versa. And if our colleagues go to the next slide, please. Iraqi government has to face its known as fifth round. It had given to some local companies and international companies. Our plan is to until 2030 there will be zero flaring. I am a university professor. I was for the university for 20 years. I want to do it in stand-up. The reverse gas of Iraq is 227 millicubic cubic meter. Until 111 years, it has gas reserve. Iraq is the 11 in the world for gas reserves. 75% of is called associated gas, which is it's an associated gas. That's why it's flaring. If you want to or not, well, it comes out with oil. So we have to flaring, or we have to investment. And 16% of it is called the free gas. 75% is associated gas. 25% is free gas. This slide is important. If you look at 2021, 53% of the was invested. If you look at last year, 66% of them has been invested and has not been flared. And this is the project that have been implemented in gas sector to be invested. And please, if you just zoom out a few of the, you see the numbers below. Next. And this is a project that in the next 3 years that will be implemented. It will consist of 200 cubic meter of gas, and will have provide all the needs of gas locally. And until 2036, there will be billions of cubic meters will be invested. And this is the analysis and details of those investments. For example, one of the gas fields in Basra in southern Iraq was agreement between Iraqi government, Total Energy, and Qatar Energy. It will have benefited a lot of Iraq for Iraq. Next. And this is all the gas sector that's working, that's been planning for next few years. It's nearly approximately 7 billion cubic meters. And we have another type of gas is called LPG. If you note, in 2024, 9,115 9 ton on daily basis is the production of daily basis for Iraq, and as you see, it has increased by twofold, and most of it we can export it as well and get a revenue from it for Iraq. In 2024 have 500 billion of cubic meter of gas were invested on. And the question of you, DM, so I can give to my time to my colleagues. I want to talk about oil sector short. Iraq can produce a lot of them now, but because of the OPEC agreements, spends 1 billion local use locally. The oil export of Iraq is because of the restrictions. Want to increase the refineries all across Iraq to provide locally the local needs, as well as export and do other projects of petrochemical sectors, and does not export raw oil, but we want to use other sectors. Thank you very much for your questions.
Doctor, thanks. That was extremely informative on the gas sector and the progress that's been made. And I think we'll return to speak about gas on this panel after a bit. But I'd just like to turn to my third guest, Mr. Matthew Zais. Matthew, we hear a lot about the political agreement that's been made on resuming the oil exports through the pipeline to Turkey. Can you give us your perspective on this and what you think you would need to see as an international oil company operating in Kurdistan to be able to resume those exports, or what more still needs to be done?
Yeah, thanks, Robin, and it's an honor to be here at for the Rudaw conference and to be joined by Dr. Luay, who both of us knew each other when we were both in government, and we've discussed many of these topics before, and it's an honor to be with Dr. Izzat as well. On the reopening of the Iraq-Turkey pipeline, obviously there has been a lot of press over the political agreements that have been reached to resume exports. Next month will be the 2-year anniversary of the pipeline closure, and I think that's emblematic of what is the substantial lose-lose arrangement for Iraq, in which the Iraqi people are losing significant revenue from the Kurdistan region, and the oil companies and the investment climate is similarly negatively affected. And ideally, these political agreements can reach conclusion so there is a win-win agreement for everyone, because both the Iraqi people and the investment environment are at stake. With the political agreements, I just want to highlight that the perception right now from the international oil companies is, and particularly from HKN, and HKN Energy is the largest private investor in all of Iraq, and we are the largest investor in the Kurdistan region. There is confusion about the political agreements and the difference between the legislative framework and these political agreements, which are necessary but not sufficient for the exports to resume. In order for exports to resume, not only are those legislative or political agreements necessary, but also commercial agreements. And those commercial agreements are not yet in place. Perhaps the audience has seen the press yesterday, which we were all surprised about, when we learned that the Iraq Oil Ministry on Tuesday filed a new legal claim against our contracts in Baghdad. That came on the same day that Prime Minister Soudani had a call with U.S. Secretary of State Rubio, where the first topic that was raised was the reopening of the Iraq-Turkey pipeline. I think that shows the political divisions that remain in Baghdad and the desire to want to reopen the ITP, and in particular to reach the necessary commercial agreements. That legal filing this week also highlights one of the two critical commercial agreements that are necessary. And those two agreements are, for us, is payment surety and contract sanctity. For payment surety, I think there is confusion that the budget law itself is sufficient. From a commercial perspective, just like any company that operates in the federal Iraq, not only do they have the necessary political framework or legislative framework that enables them to, in our case, produce and export oil, but they also have necessary commercial agreements, including lifting agreements as they transfer their production and are paid for that production to the state agencies, in particular SOMO, for exports. For contract sanctity, the legislation clearly states that there is a role for a technical consultant. From the perspective of the international oil companies, the commercial agreement that still has to be reached is the scope of work and the plan for that consultant, such that that consultant's work does not negatively impact our contractual terms, which have been upheld as legal and valid in the Iraqi courts and remain legally invalid in international law, and that agreement is also necessary. So we are very encouraged by the legislative and political agreements that have been reached. We are hopeful that Iraq oil can resume through the Iraq-Turkey pipeline. It's necessary for a number of reasons, not to exclude the ability for Iraq to have redundant export routes, particularly not just through the Gulf, but also the Mediterranean. But these commercial agreements are necessary, and the IOCs are ready to reach those as soon as possible so that exports can resume.
Right. Thank you. And you mentioned, Matt, of course, the call between Secretary of State Rubio and Prime Minister Soudani. Dr. Luay, what do you think the impact of the Trump administration will be on Iraq's energy relations, both internal and external?
Well, during the first term of President Trump, back in 2018 and 19, when I was minister, the U.S. administration very much wanted to put an end to reliance on importing electricity and gas from Iran specific. And that's because of the sanctions imposed on Iran and basically the transfer of the dollars to sanctioned countries. And then we went into negotiation to convince them that we need to quite a sensible period and to implement such a transition to develop our own assets as well as to develop new ties with other sources to import gas and electricity from other suppliers, let it be the interconnectivity with neighboring countries or finding competitive suppliers from different parts of the world. The exemptions went down from 3 months to 1 month. Now, today, with the pressure very much increasing by the day, this could be very much hazardous on Iraq's economy and Iraq's politics in general if the United States insists to put a complete end to the reliance on the reliance of importing electricity and gas from Iran. So far, there is no an exact text or executive orders to suggest such thing, but we could see this coming in the coming weeks or months, which means compromising Iraq's position, especially during summer, given the fact that Iraq relies on gas feedstock for almost 40% to 50% to sustain its national grid. Needless to say that any alternatives will take some time in developing the infrastructure, let it be importing from Qatar or other places. On top of that, the extra cost that could be considered when importing LNG as opposed to importing gas through pipeline. So the Iranian gas is much more competitive compared to other sources. Having said that, and that's including the electricity, by the way, because even like importing electricity from neighboring countries, it's quite limited and it's going to take some time. Let it be through the GCCIA lines, which is yet to be developed, or through the Iraq-Saudi electricity interconnectivity, which is quite limited and still need to be developed. And this would not add more than less than 5% or 0.5% into what Iraq needs to meet its demand. The question here is not about the technical issues and results. It's a question of economics at the end of the day. When it comes to the energy security in Iraq, it's quite complex to explain it to the general public. They think it's just by developing more power stations and developing more infrastructure and developing more and more of Iraq's assets to produce more gas and so on will resolve the issues. No. We have an institutional issues and an economic issue. It's a question of economics. When the price is zero, demand is infinite. It's all about managing demand. If we cannot manage the demand, it's impossible to meet what needs to be done year on year. We have I'll just give you an example. Since 2003, Iraq oil production increased almost 3-folds. In gas, 4-folds. Electricity, believe it or not, 8 times. But the impact of Daesh and terrorism and so on destroyed almost 25% of it. Needless to say that we have enough power generation, enough to meet 24/7. But there is injustice in distribution and injustice in consumption because the grids needs automated infrastructure, proper billing system, improving the smart metering infrastructure, basically smart metering requirements to secure 100% collection. The power piracy on the national grids, the lack of commitment in terms of from the public not to stick to the rule of laws and paying their dues, the almost less than 10% of the cost of the power sold to the public, it's not properly collected. We cannot, the Iraqi government cannot continue selling less than 10% of the cost of the power sector and expect to manage demand. At the moment, 1 kilowatt hour is sold almost 1 cent when it costs the government over 12 cents. So it's a simple math. So when the price is zero, demand is infinite. And that's why you see some of the statements from the Ministry of Electricity suggesting that the demand required is 50 gigawatts or 60 gigawatts. No, we may need 30 gigawatts maximum. But even that 30 gigawatts, it's not enough. If we continue selling such electricity on low tariff, and this is a decision, by the way, it's not a ministry level decision. This is a cabinet level decision in terms of like the tariff reform. And it requires a political support from the political elite, from the key blocs that forming the government. And without that economic reform, it's going to be quite challenging to sustain the national grid. When we talk about the tariff reform, it's not about just increasing the tariff. It's about reforming the tax system, the type of contracts, the institutional structure of the energy sector at large, decoupling public companies from ministries, making the companies to focus as a regulator, as a strategist, as a policymaker, as opposed to act as an operator, and leave the operation to the public, private, and sector to handle the power generation and distribution. So there is an institutional reform that is required, economic reform that is required to be in place, and a collective effort and support from all parties. The public always accuse the minister as the whole sector is a one-man show. No, it's not a one-man show. This is a commitment that requires the support and of all stakeholders. Let it be government, legislative, or the public. Without that collective effort, it's impossible to develop a sustainable national grid and deliver energy security to the state. The power sector issue, it did not ignite back in 2003. It wasn't since 1991. But what really kind of like what really helped to manage the situation between 1991 and 2003 is the dictatorship. When you have like still developing democracy since 2003 and until now, and then you have like the population, by the way, increased since 2003 until now, almost doubled. We used to have like the population was 23 million, now 46 million. So it's a simple math. You do that, and then you see that we have a big issue here. So all that increase, let it be in the oil production or power generation or the gas development, means nothing compared to the 2.6% of the population growth year on year. We're going to be 55 million by 2030. Can we handle the demand by that time? It's going to be impossible. So there are a lot of the economic reform. It's a major issue. It took many countries in Europe and other countries to move from like socialism and to market economy, many years of incremental development, that at least 2 to 3 full terms of government to deliver that economic reform. One last point I would like to highlight. The big issue that's facing the energy sector at large in Iraq is that the energy sector is divided between three ministries: Ministry of Oil, Ministry of Electricity, and Ministry of Industry. Without having an energy portfolio under one umbrella to handle this strategy, it's going to be quite impossible to deliver a unified strategy, a vision that can be delivered and serve the nation. Those three portfolios witnessed almost 40 ministers. Can you imagine an open heart surgery administered by 40 heart surgeons? The patient will die. And this is what happened. Look at other countries and the neighboring countries in the region, when, let it be like in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, or even Egypt and so on. Ministers, when it comes to energy, this is like the open heart surgeon role. They don't change it like quite frequently. They keep it for almost like 2 terms, 3 terms to deliver a significant job. Changing one minister every 12 months or every term is not going to solve the problem. And this role should not be given to someone with limited vision and limited understanding, with zero understanding on economy, administration, and management. And you expect to see wonders that come out of their decisions. This is just in short, but I'm afraid it's not about a question of delivering more power stations to solve the issues or solving an interconnectivity with Saudi Arabia or Jordan or whatever. That the totality of it won't add more than 50% of our annual growth in demand. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Dr. Luay. I think that's a great image, the 40 open heart surgeons, and that gives some picture of how difficult it is. Given the challenges on the gas sector, Dr. Izzat, could you give us your thoughts on these short-term challenges in gas and meeting the growth in demand for gas and for electricity? All of the opportunities to deal with that they take, as Dr. Luay says, they take time, whether it's gas imports or more gas development or electricity imports. All these things are somewhat expensive and also take time. Do you think there's an opportunity for more cooperation on gas between the Kurdistan region and the federal authorities? I mean, there are large non-associated gas reserves in the Kurdistan region. There are, of course, as you know, projects to bring gas from the Qamar development into federal Iraq. Could you give us your thoughts on that potential for cooperation?
And in truth, I have some notes on the Mr. Minister's speech. He talked about a lot of issues, but he should have, I hope, to give some solution as well. Talk about solutions. The price of electricity is zero price. So when the citizen use it, they don't use it in a good way. But there should be a solution. In Baghdad, some of the some neighborhood has been given to private sectors, and every month they knock on my door and say if they don't give me the bill, will cut the electricity, and that's a good example. And in Erbil and Soleimani, the same example. So the citizens are forced to use it in a healthy way. I support the minister's speech. The problem won't be solved. We should decrease the demand and regulate the system. We have problems now. We have like electricity station Nasiriyah, Mansouriya. we have not been successful in improving gas production and Anbar as well. This later this year, which they have built a electricity station on the gas, but has not started yet. So the minister is sitting next to me. The demand is very big, but the production is 25 megawatt. This gap is filling is not easy. No countries just wait, or they should have multi sources to provide electricity, not only gas. Regarding KRG and Baghdad relationship, if they have good relationship for the citizen, will be better for the citizen. We know that we send 20 to 30 tons of LPG to Kurdistan, and it's a good rate. And both sides could benefit from this partnership, the filling of the needs of both sides. This talks a lot about and KRG. If Iraq needs gas, why KRG doesn't provide them, and why they don't export electricity to Iraq, and they will get good revenue. So that's why an energy relationship should be more better, and our aim is for this, and we have done a lot of effort. I'm a representative of Kurds in oil ministry. I defend all the interest of all Iraqi people. The Mr. Minister talked about gas investment. It needs time, and it's a complicated issue. 15,000 megawatt. If it's all produced by gas, it's needs 10 billion cubic meters, and through this export from Iran doesn't reach 3 billion cubic meter per day. All if all the power station work through gas, won't be enough. The reserve of gas Iraq is too much, but we don't know when we reach our capacity. Maybe in 2035 won't reach it until 10 years time. The needs of power station we want, but if you tell me when we have find an alternative for importing Iranian gas, an average 800 cubic meter in the last 8 but we have increased the production in the last 8 months for 600 cubic meter per day. But the need of the power station of Iraq won't be all provided for. But we need to find an alternative. Now 40 to 45% of Iraqi electricity are provided by gas, because gas, if you we use gas for provide electricity, you need it doesn't need that much as cost as raw oil, and I want to make sure that we hope and we work on that, and it's our mission to KRG and Baghdad to have a good relationship in that sector, especially. And me, I've never been called and or standstill and to provide all the need of Kurdistan and what's needed in oil ministry and vice versa as well. I want to take a note. I want to talk about the oil export. We have a type of oil in Kirkuk. It's $2 more sold in world market. $2 more than the world market oil prices. Without a doubt, if we KRG and Baghdad agree and reorganize and restart the oil export from Kurdistan, we'll have a very good revenue for all Kurdistan and Iraq. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. And Matt, the Prime Minister Sudani said in his speech opening the opening of this conference that he was looking forward to more cooperation with the international oil companies in Kurdistan, and this agreement could open a new page for them. What opportunities does it open, do you think, for IOCs in Kurdistan, and what would need to happen to make that successful?
Yes, I think we all heard his comments and welcomed them because we need to turn the page for a new chapter in the ability for international investors to be successful in all of Iraq, to include the Kurdistan region. First, I think the priority is to reach, as I noted earlier, the necessary commercial agreements that will allow exports to resume. And I think this directly relates to the discussion we're having here with gas. The investment environment has been significantly infected here in the Kurdistan region from the closure of the Iraqi-Turkey pipeline for almost the last 2 years. And that has a trickle effect in all energy production investment decisions, not just here in the Kurdistan region, but all of Iraq. And speaking of gas, I'll come to that in a second, but just to give you an example, 2 years ago, the region was producing approximately 417,000 barrels of oil today. And so I think many would be surprised, or were surprised, to learn when the discussions resumed about exporting oil and reopening the ITP, that production here in the Kurdistan region is now as low as 300,000. And that is just a direct reflection of the lack of a viable investment environment, whereby the international oil companies have been barely limping by to sustain their existing production, selling at significant discounts on the local market. And that's an environment that does not allow oil companies to do any significant investment to either sustain or increase production. And that's why you see this precipitous fall in production here in the Kurdistan region over the last 2 years. If the Iraqi-Turkey pipeline opens following the necessary commercial agreements, that will restore the confidence in the international oil companies and the ability to invest here in the Kurdistan region to resume our previous investment cycle and return production back to where it was, and hopefully increase it beyond that. But that also has a cascading effect on the rest of the sector, particularly in gas, and that's why you have not seen any investment in the gas sector here in the Kurdistan region, because it's not been an investor-friendly environment given the closure of the ITP. And so the reopening of the ITP does not just enable the resumption of oil exports, and as Dr. Izzat said, enable the exports not just from the Kurdistan region, but also from federal Iraq through the ITP. But it's also going to present an investment environment that, once again, we can look at the gas resources in Kurdistan, which, as has been discussed here, is also essential for all of Iraq. Significant gas resources that are not just associated gas are here in the region that need to be developed, that need to facilitate the energy demands and the production goals for all of Iraq. So in short, the reopening of the ITP is a significant signal to the international community that Iraq is once again an investor-friendly place, and that's going to be necessary for the Iraqi energy demands of the future.
Thank you. And I think we now have a little bit of time for questions from the audience, so I'd like to go to the audience. Please, if we start with the gentleman in the front row.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dr. Luay, Dr. Izzat. You talked about the magical solution and talked about private sector. The question is why the private sector succeed and the public sector is always failing in this sector. You talked about, but you didn't talk about protecting environment, and talked about Haweza marshes, which was included in the World Heritage of UNICEF. There's a lot of activities, oil and sector. What the oil ministry has done in pollution and damaging environment from those projects and the hydrological system. Yeah, I believe there's a oil field nearby, and if what have done to protect the Haweza marsh. And there's another place where the oil ministry has done a lot to protect those regions, especially in Kirkuk, because of the oil wall polluted a lot of nearby region, as well as in Haweza marsh. There's a special committee in oil ministry. They have investigating and then doing the assessment how to protect the environment, those marshes. I'll give you an example regarding the environment. The total projects, all the four projects will benefit the environment. It's at canal energy. We clean billions of the Shuttle Arab our oil ministry has given a lot of priorities to the protecting environment. Mr. Rahman's question is a good question. The government is not to benefit, but to provide services to the public. Meanwhile, electricity is a public property, but it has to have a revenue. And how you regulate that? When you have you live in a private place, but as the minister said, if you have zero price for electricity, the usage is not healthy. Most of the electricity or power generated by the public sector, by the private sector. But the dividing those power is the public sector or the government sector. And I what's the best solution is the smart solution, in my opinion. So thank you. Market system according to all needs and according to the support of the government for the projects. In the last 2 years, it depends on the Iraqi government, directly or indirectly, to provide $33 billion costs Iraqi government, and the government doesn't get back those from those people who use this the power or electricity, and because of the price of the electricity and the services and this is too much money. $33 billion too. It will have effect on the Iraqi budget and the general revenue of Iraqi and Libyans. And this is continue, and will become a big money for the Iraqi government. You see, there's a sector, public sector. The government supports energy sector. That's not an investment. Investment is if you do a work, you get a revenue from it, and that revenue get from the public. There should be the situation should be, or the structure should be recorrected. You see, you have something, you sell it. There's nothing that you have an important source, and you don't get any money or free. Electricity or power is a source, and it's a very expensive. In the last 40 years in Iraq, because of the development of air conditioning system, the cost of energy sector has increased a lot, not just in Iraq and all around the world. It's related to the world situation. Nearly 1 billion people in the world doesn't reach they don't get electricity. 3 billion people get a small amount of electricity. This is not related just to Iraq, it's related to all around the world. President Trump, in the election campaign, the energy sector, talked about the energy sector, the energy file, and decreasing the pricing of energy was one of his priorities. U.S. population to 340 million people. Most of them, they can't build, they have ability, can't pay the energy bill every month. So, and so, if you compare it to in Iraq, Iraq is one of the Middle East countries doesn't have do investment, the power and energy. The Gulf countries, they get a lot of revenue from the energy investment. and our system they have not been any reforms. I always use term user, not citizen. They should know and be aware how to use electricity. They should control the cost, they control their pocket.
Thank you very, very much to my panelists for that excellent discussion. We've covered a lot of topics and appreciate the questions from the audience. And we'll now move on to the next panel. So thank you, everybody.